What's up, guys? So let's talk about the update today. So they could surprise us with something, but don't expect it. So what you should expect from today's update, of course, is a little bit of bug fixes, maybe translation errors. But the big thing is that now tier 6 weapons and armors and accessories, gear can now be converted into an NFT and then sold on OpenSea or other NFT marketplaces like that. It's got to be tier 6 and above. It can go into either a Polygon or a Clayton chain, and it's going to cost 500 BSLT to convert this into an NFT. There's also a 7.5% transaction fee when you sell it on OpenSea or other websites like that. So they give you a text guide here, how to convert item into NFT, but they also posted a YouTube video as well to show you how to convert an item and apply an item into an NFT and transfer it to another server. So if you are interested in this system, this only affects a very, very small amount of the player base. Go check out this video. It's really well done here. Archeworld, The Adventures of Mo, Equipment Item NFT Guide. Let's give this thing a like right here because, again, very well done video. So breaks down all the steps for you. We're not going to do any of that stuff, but the system is pretty simple. It's only a 3-minute video here, and a little bit of this just hype on showing you, hey, there's a better weapon I can buy. It really is a simple process, about a minute or so to do this. So let's talk about other updates that are potentially going to happen. And the big one, of course, is the Ocean update. So a lot of people are speculating the Ocean update is going to be coming sooner rather than later. But we do know they said the target date is the end of summer, which to me means around like October. So I would not get my hopes up for anything Ocean related until around October at the earliest. But again, I could be wrong. This is all speculation. We do not know. But we are going to get very, very close now. So it's 5/24. We're getting close to the land dividend. The dividend will be happening. The snapshot happens on the last day of the month. So the last day of this month is, I believe, the 31st. So on the 31st, there will be a snapshot taken, and then the dividends will be awarded around like the 6th or 7th, typically for the land owners, the land NFT owners, that is. So if you own a land NFT, you're going to be getting that. And the event is going to be ending. We are down to a few thousand of those chests on the Fortune of Wealth. So if we go to Archeworld website, you can check out that if you haven't figured out what's going on there. That's only on server number 2, but unfortunately we cannot see this because we are at our weekly maintenance. But yeah, the Fortune of Wealth chest is almost sold out. About, like I said, I think 4,000 or so of these chests available. There could be another event that could potentially happen for all servers, but I'm not getting my hopes up. Like if it does happen, great, huge surprise. But realistically, we shouldn't be expecting anything in today's maintenance, except for, like I said, those bug fixes and this tier 6 item exchange. After thinking about it more, I don't think this really affects the server economies much because there's only a total of around about 20 tier 6 weapons and armors on the Asian server. Most of them are on one person's account, and Ganama has a good majority of these things, about 5-6 of them, I think, last I checked. So if he decides to move over to your server, then of course that is going to be a massive, massive change on the economy of that server. But I don't think he will for a couple of reasons. For one, he pretty much is dominating the Asian server already. 2, he loses his ancestral levels. So if he does convert over, he's not going to be able to bring his character, and he can only bring these tier 6 gears. So he's going to have to ancestral level up again. I think he's at ancestral level like 30 over there, which is just crazy expensive. Like he spent a ton of money on buying ancestral tokens to upgrade his character and get those ancestral levels. And then also he does not have friends or allies really on the American servers right now. So he'll be coming over alone for the most part if he did transfer over. So I don't think this has much effect actually thinking about it. Where I do think this is a very big problem, these NFTs are going to be on the European server because Europe server is scheduled to launch around the end of the year. So we'll just say December 2023, right, is the target date for the European server. At that point, the Asian servers will be about 1 year and 3 months, 4 months old, and the American servers will be about 6 months old, 5 months old. So by this point, you're going to see a lot more tier 6 gear. A lot more will have a beer appearing, and people will now be planning to import their characters over to Europe and dominate like day one if server transfers of gear are allowed, which it looks like it will be at this point. We don't know 100% certain, but there is no restrictions on where you can take these NFTs, and we'll have to see if they do come up with something and making restrictions or something like that for Europe. But as of now, we're under the assumption that there's going to be freely transfers with these NFTs to the European server when it releases. At that point, people are now planning already, right now, today, for the European launch. 6 months out, 5 months out, you got people buying up the fandom card NFTs. So they're preparing to get those land mints on the European server. You get the free land for owning 3 fandom cards, and we're seeing an increase in fandom card price. Like fandom card prices going up, steadily, slow but steadily. And people again are also preparing for Europe, which is like character builds, earning BSLT, hoarding BSLT, stockpiling, things like that, game knowledge, playing the game and learning about the game. But others also could be planning very well to transfer everything over to Europe when it does launch, and that means just getting everything up to tier 6 if possible, working hard to that goal, not investing in ancestral levels because they know that does not transfer right now, and just strictly staying at ancestral level 1 or level 55 and just focusing strictly on that gear upgrades and progression. Because the Shadowgun heroic crystals are not that actually expensive on the American servers. We're only seeing them sell for around about 2,000 BSLT. Only a couple have sold, but the purple Shadowguns are also dropping in price. They're currently right around 300 BSLT. So we do this 10-to-1 ratio on those things based on the conversions, which means that a Shadowgun would be around 3,000 BSLT, which is a lot cheaper than the Asian server, which has typically seen Shadowguns heroic sell for around 5,000 BSLT. So it's a little interesting. The prices might fluctuate, obviously, if more people start to get there, and you do need a lot of Archeum, which that's the big bottleneck right now on the American server. There just isn't enough players that have accumulated millions and millions of Archeum to feed their gear to get ready to get to that tier 6. Even the highest player, Scissorman, has not gotten full tier 5 weapons at max level. They're not full of Archeum. He still needs to feed them like 1 million or 500,000 Archeum for his weapons to get them ready to attempt that upgrade. So it just takes time, but over those 5-6 months that will be happening, the players will be getting there, some of them at least. Obviously, a free-to-play player will not be anywhere near tier 6. A free-to-play player might be just getting to tier 4s at that point. But yeah, there's a very big possibility that the European server could be in great trouble with tier 6 transfers, because if we look at it right now, 8 months into Asia or 9 months into Asia, we have about 20 of these guys. So if we add another, roughly 9 months, we double that. That means we're gonna have about 40 on the Asian server, and that means we'll have roughly about 10 or 15 on the American server. So that means the total gear pool would roughly be, we'll just say 50 of them, and there's more of a chance, a likelihood that someone will come over to dominate the European server, because we saw that server 1 on North America was just dominated by one person who had 18,000 gear score, Scissorman, and everyone else just kind of just bended to the knee to his power. And of course he did make friends and did make allies, but it's very easy to make friends and make allies when you are the strongest person on the server. So we'll see if someone does transfer over tier 6 weapons or armor. Even just one of them will have a significant impact on the game server. One tier 6 weapon or armor probably gets you around 4,000 to 5,000 gear score, maybe 6,000 gear score. So if it's your main weapon, if it's a bow, it's probably going to get you about 3,000, give or take, on gear score. That will definitely give you higher combat levels and huge advantage, because a 12,000 gear score versus a 15,000 gear score, people already think that it's insurmountable. You can't beat that person. And yes, it's very, very difficult for a 12K to beat a 15K. But now if you're looking at a 12K versus a 20K gear score person, there's literally no way that they can even hit them, because at that point the combat level is too far apart. So if they have a 10 combat level difference, I believe is the ratio, then you cannot hit them. It's just 100% invalid. So every time their combat level increases, they're going to just be harder and harder to kill, which is going to snowball effect, right? So if they drop into the European server just with one tier 6 weapon or armor, specifically you'd probably would bring a weapon, because that's where DPS comes from and allow you to kill things faster. So if they drop in with that weapon, now they can potentially, dominate the arena and get that 2500 BSLT every week. And then they're also going to dominate the gear score rankings, which then also shows them, hey, this is the top dog, the top player on the server. And now they can recruit other players that are like, hey, or I mean, if they're smart, right? So in theory, if the number one player on the server is really smart, the goal would be to monopolize the entire server and get the top 50 players under one banner, one guild, and dominate that server. Because if you have the strongest 50 players on the server, there's really no need for anyone else, right? Even if you have 50 of the top 100 players, you don't need any other players. You literally, this is what Mutiny has done on server 2. They have one core guild in one raid of 50 players, and they literally do not need anyone else. This is what people are saying too. It's hey, the game's going to die. The game is going to blow up. You don't have a lot of players. It's you do not need that many players. One 50-man raid, and even smaller than that, once you get stronger and geared up more, you could probably defeat all these Rift and boss content with 20 people or 25 people. The only reason that you actually have more players is to help speed up the killing time and also prevent you from getting killed by bigger, larger groups of enemies. If your enemies are not fighting you, it really does not make much sense to share the loot with weaker and weaker players. Why would someone that is 18,000 gear score want to share the loot with someone who's 13,000 gear score when they don't need them, right? That's, in theory, how a stronger player probably will think about this stuff. So if you jump over with a bunch of money and have that tier 6 weapon, now you can really start to control the politics on the server and dictate who gets what, who is progressing, who is getting the drops, what the rules are of the server. It's a really cool and interesting dynamic if this does play out. Politics are very, very complex, and it's ever changing. So I'm really curious to see what happens. I'm also really curious to see if 2 servers get released in Europe. I really hope that they don't. If they do, I will be preparing, and I'll probably be buying land on server 2, because server 2 will most likely be the more populated server again, just like we've seen here in North America, because history does tend to repeat itself. So I would expect that server 1 on Europe will be dominated by an Asian guild, someone who's played in Asia and NA server, and then is just hopping over and potentially brought over a tier 6 weapon. Server 2 will probably be a lot more of the newer players and easier for the first couple of weeks, and then eventually all the players will migrate to server 2, and server 2 will probably end up being the most population dense server out there, at least for a while, until maybe someone else decides that, hey, I'm going to transfer over and become a tier 6 gear score person on server 2 and dominate. So it's really, really interesting. And also by this point of European release, we might see a character transfer, because character transfer is on the roadmap. So if we do take a look at the roadmap over here, we can see that one of the next things that is coming up is actually character transfers. So we have item NFT conversion system, that right there is there. And then next up we have Arclife BSLT staking system. Then we have ancestral skills, so new skills are coming. And then next we have Marine Lands Naval Battles, which should be, like I said, around October. Trade in vehicles, which could be tied in a little bit with the naval battles and ship. And then next up, character NFT conversion system. So there's a chance that character NFTs could also be transferred to the European server, which would once again be terrible, but we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. I could also see them holding European server off until the Warborn and Dwarf race is unlocked, because it makes more sense, right, to release the European server with these added new races so that they don't have to re-level and play with, a human, and then like 2 months later be like, oh, Warborn's released, here you go, and they're like, damn it, I wanted to play a Warborn. So very, very interesting to see what will happen. But yes, this is the roadmap. If you haven't checked it out in Discord. There's also suggestions on Discord, so post your suggestions, vote on suggestions in Discord. Let them know your feedback, because they are listening. So yeah, that is the update here. That is my ramble, my rant for the day. I will talk to you guys later, and hopefully we get surprised with some secret new content today, but not expecting anything. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great day.